What up, guys? Today we're going to be reviewing the Thunderbolts movie. I watched it when it actually dropped out. The first day when it came out, I got my tickets. I went there and I watched it. And there was a lot of questions people had about this movie. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? A lot of people had negative things to say about this movie before it even came out because of, all the Marvel projects that have come out. There are some good things that have come out from Marvel projects, even still now, but majority of them have been bad. A lot of people, when they were hearing about this and looking at this, they had still negative, opinions on it. And this movie had a lot writing on it. Uh, if it did bad, this would have been obviously a completely bad sign for Marvel itself. And if it did good, it would be a really great thing because the whole Fantastic Four movie, even though there's another movie coming out this year, the Fantastic Four movie, a lot of people's perceptions on that movie is very negative due to the explanations on what direction they're going. Personally, I didn't care for the Fantastic Four movie when they first mentioned it. I was like, okay, whatever. They've tried twice, it failed twice. This is the third time. I guess it's fine. But then I started hearing a little bit more of the details for that movie, and honestly, myself went from either not caring to thinking that this is a dumb idea. So I really don't want to see that movie anyway. So this was the only other Marvel movie project I was going to watch this year. And I was hoping it was going to be good because even though Daredevil Born Again, for me personally, some stuff I did not like and I felt like it could have been a little bit better. I still think as a whole, it was a pretty good show. I just feel like next season is going to be a lot better because it was a little bit weird and disconjointed due to the fact that they had to fire the other writers and then this whole switch around and stuff, and there was a bunch of stuff happening with that show, so there was problems coming from it. So I'm hoping season 2 is gonna be a lot better and there's not gonna be those problems there then, right? But as a whole, I still thought it was pretty good. Um, the Fantastic Four movie, I didn't care for it, and then hearing more about the details, it was kind of disappointing and lackluster sounding, so I don't care for that. So this was the only thing that I truly cared about coming from Marvel besides Daredevil Born Again. Or actually, they're also going to drop out the Punisher show. I'm for sure this year, the next year they're dropping out season 2 of Daredevil. So I can't wait to see that. But I was anticipating for this movie, I actually had more positive feelings and opinions on this movie than a lot of people did before. But after watching it, do I think it is as bad as people are saying, or is it as great as people are saying? Because there's two camps that are completely on the completely opposite end. One end saying, "Yeah, Marvel is completely done for. This is trash. This is horrible. This was like whatever." It was like they have the most negative opinions, and then there's the other side where people are saying Marvel is so back. This movie was great. It was phenomenal. Some people are even saying it's 10 out of 10. So there's two different sides that are completely different. One side is completely negative. The other side is completely positive. For me personally, after watching the movie, and my opinion on it is personally I do think it is a disappointing movie. I don't think it's an atrocious movie. I can see why some people would like it. Not to the extent a lot of people are saying that, oh, Marvel's so back and this movie's perfect, and especially the 10 out of 10. I don't know where the hell they got that from. But as a whole, I don't think this movie is some great ass perfect movie, but I am disappointed with it. So I am leaning more towards the camp of the negative side, but not to that extent. I just felt like there was a lot of things that they could have done better. I also don't like the major decision of putting the Sentry in this movie. I felt like the Thunderbolts dealing with Sentry was not a good idea. I think they could have had somebody else that was a major threat, but not too much of a major threat that they could introduce. And I felt like Sentry could have been saved up for another storyline, potentially a little bit more in the future, which would have, made more sense. And I'll explain that later because I have a little idea that they could have done personally. I felt like it would have been a good idea as a whole. But it was disappointing for many, many reasons. I don't like the fact they had the Sentry in this. I felt like he was way too OP for them. They're a team full of like regular humans, except for like two or three guys that are super soldiers. But it's like, come on, they're Captain America level, which Captain America was one of the weaker Avengers. Like they're the strength of the weaker Avenger. That's not impressive. And then they're going against Sentry, who is stated in this movie to be stronger than all the Avengers combined. So it's like I didn't expect them to be able to do anything, and they didn't. They spent most of the movie just trying to save him from himself and rescue him from himself. And I also want to talk about the Void. I felt like the way they handled the Void in this was a little weird. I liked it more in the comics. Um, but also the design of the Void in this was a little weird. So the movie pretty much starts off, and I think I came a little bit late, so maybe I missed some stuff. But it started off with Valentina, whatever, I forgot her name is. I'm just gonna call her Valentina. She was in court, she was trying to pass her a law bill because she's going for, oh yeah, also I forgot there was another Marvel project before this. It was uh, Captain America Brave New World. I didn't watch that, so there's some stuff, details in that movie if you haven't watched it either. That is in this movie. It's not completely too much stuff, but it's some stuff. So Valentina is going for like, she's running in politics and she's trying to become, I don't know, governor or something like that. And then also Bucky's doing it. Apparently this was mentioned in that movie. He was supposed to be Governor Bucky and shit like that. So they're fighting in politics and then the court went against her. She was like, whatever. So she was gonna start her plan of creating her Century Project. She was the one who created the Century Project, but apparently they finished that or whatever. I don't know. But she was pretty much gonna get what's the thing called? She had a bunch of loose ends, which was a lot of like questionable people working for her. Like I forgot what the girl's name is. I think her name was the Ghost or something like that. The girl that can phase through things. They had Yelena, who is obviously one of the people in the Black Widow project and stuff, and she was Black Widow's younger sister. Then they had the new Captain America that I forgot what his name was, John something. So they had him. Then they had also Taskmaster there. So they had them there. And her plan was basically she lied to Yelena and told her, hey, look, there is this secret facility that I have with all my old stuff that I'm getting rid of. So because I'm trying to get into the politics and stuff, and I don't want to get in trouble and stuff. So I'm trying to get rid of that. And there's somebody that is trying to get it exposed, and it was the girl that can face through things. So she's like, I need you to go and take her out. Once you take her out, your job is done with me and you don't have to do this anymore. She's like, okay, cool. So she leaves, she goes to see her dad, who's a Red Russian, and he's kind of living in a shitty, like, apartment and stuff. And he's like, oh, I'm doing good. He was kind of lying and he kind of admitted afterwards. And this is the guy where we get all the comedy from. So he was the comedic relief in this movie and he was actually pretty funny. I liked him. I didn't watch the, I didn't watch the, I watched some of it, but I didn't watch the whole thing of the Black Widow movie. And I know in that movie he was also comedic, but he's like, "Oh, I want a job under her." She's like, "No." He's like, I'm gonna be done with her after this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of this life. I just want to get out of it." So then she goes to do her job and mission try to stop her. And then John shows up and he's fighting her. And then Taskmaster shows up. So it's like now it's like all of them are there fighting against each other. And it's like, what the hell's happening? And then she realizes, like, oh shit, this bitch is not trying to, get me to stop this girl from stealing her secrets and getting her in trouble. She's literally trying to dispose of us because, like she said, that area or that room, that she had a facility. The whole point of that facility was to have all of her stuff that she did, all these projects and all this stuff that were illegal, because she's been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes and she's becoming the bigger like villain role in the background, doing a bunch of questionable stuff, kind of like Amanda Waller. And she's trying to go for, politics and run for like government and shit. And she can't do that with all this shit in her back. Because if they find out and expose it, she's gonna be in serious trouble. So she was trying to get rid of all this stuff. But not only the things there she was trying to get rid of, but also the people she associated with. Because if she gets found out that she associated with guys like these, some of them are criminals and other ones are kind of like assassins and hitmen and stuff like that, it will be bad on her record. So she was trying to get rid of it completely by getting rid of the projects and the people. And the way she was trying to do it was in that room, there was an incinerator trying to incinerate them all. So now they're all fighting back to back. Taskmaster actually gets killed by the ghost girl. She puts a hole into her head, which I was like, damn, that was pretty quick. Because people were mentioning the fact about the whole, you know, um, Avengers Doomsday movie, and they had like all these other actors and actresses, and they showed the chairs and who's going to be that movie. Some people were saying that one person is going to, from the Thunderbolts is going to die in this movie. It was Taskmaster. Nobody else died afterwards. But she died quick. I was like, damn, okay. I'm guessing she's the one that's going to die. And then they're going trying to fight each other. And then the fake Captain America, he's being a fucking idiot. They stop, and then the two girls realize that, oh, this bitch is manipulating us to get us here so she can wipe us all out. And this dumbass is like, well, why would she do that? She literally offered me a clean slate. I was like, you fucking dipshit. Like, I'm pretty sure he's just an idiot. I don't remember him being that stupid you know, Captain America and Winter Soldier show, which I actually enjoy that show. He was in there and he was kind of like antagonist, but he wasn't a complete bad guy. He was just a little off. But he's being a dumbass and he just doesn't understand. They're trying to explain it and he just doesn't buy it. And he's keep on being a dick. He's just a dick and he's stupid as shit. So he's being a dumbass and they're trying to explain like, what the hell's wrong with you? He's like, no, she's gonna, clean my slate. I have a family and stuff. My life matters more than you guys. And then even when the incinerator was going on, he's like, oh, okay, maybe she is trying to get rid of us. I'm like, what the fuck, stupid? Yeah. And then we see Bob, who is obviously the sentry. He's like, oh, I'm Bob. I don't know how I got here, this and that. And we know in the comics he was a druggie and he broke into the facility somehow and got the super soldier serum that they were creating. That was apparently 1,000 times stronger than Captain America's one. So he took that and thought it was drugs, and that's how he got powers. But in this one, he was put into a program. So they had a program for the Sentry thing, which was called the Sentry Project. And they got a lot of people that they either just, I maybe kidnapped, and then other people that just signed up for it, which he came and he did in like, I think in Malaysia. And he came to the program, he stumbled upon it, and then he said, okay, if you do some testing on me, maybe it might be, give me some importance in life. So he does it, and then they all die except for him. So he became it that way. And I don't like that. I liked it better the way they handled it in the comics than this. And I'll explain why, because it is just a little dumb, in my opinion, for him to have gotten into the Century Project as a whole. But he was on drugs. He didn't know what happened. He was completely lost. He was apparently locked into this crate and he was a part of the thing that he was going to get wiped out. But Valentina didn't know this. Also, there was like a party that they had where all the politicians were there and Bucky was there and he was uh, scoping her assistant because he knows that her assistant could probably change. So he was trying to get her to change, but she's like, I know who you are and I'm not going to do it. And then she left. So it was a little bit of a conflict with her character too on whether she's going to betray Valentina or is she going to be, her work for her. And she kind of did both in this movie, which was a little weird. But yeah, she goes and leaves. So they had that little stuff, and then Bucky is obviously going after her. And there's the other politician guy. He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm trying to take her down. I'm trying to do this, catch her, all this reports for a case to impeach her." And he's like, "That's not gonna work. We need more solid evidence." So this is how Bucky gets into the situation. But we go back to them. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna get incinerated. We need to get out of here." They break out. They have to climb up, and this is kind of like funny. And we see a little bit more of like all their personalities and stuff. But Yolanda is actually kind of a nice person, and she's just trying to help, and she's just like wants to be done with this. Bob is just completely clueless on what's happening, and he's kind of like a civilian. John is being a dick. He's being a straight up asshole and being stupid. Um, then you have the other girl, the ghost girl. She's kind of basically she doesn't want to be a part of any of this or associate with any of this, and they're kind of shaky on is she going to help them out because she's very important with her powers, and she does. She does look like she's going to betray them many times, but she's willing to help them out because they all know that they need to work together if they want to get out there. And Yolanda is just she's just caring about Bob because he's a civilian. She wants to protect him from the situation. She's like, once we get you, get everybody out of here, then you can do whatever you want. But I need to protect you right now. And Valentina is checking up on this. She's like, oh, they're a bunch of losers. They're not going to team up and get out of here. And then her assistant was like, actually, they did. So they're already coming out. She's like, okay, I'll go and take them down. And she was kind of annoyed. So they got out. And then John got into a fight with Bob because Bob was talking to himself and now was being a dick talking shit. And then he was like, you know what? You're a dick. I don't know why you're such an asshole. He's like, see, this is why you're not Captain America. Because Captain America wouldn't act like you. And he didn't like that. So he charged at him, pushed him against the wall, and then started choking him. And he thought he was tougher because he had the whole super soldier serum in him, which technically he did too. So it's funny because they all had something to do with the super soldier serum, either having it or having some connections with it or something like that. So it's like all of them had something to do with that, which was kind of funny in my opinion. So he puts him against the wall. He's choking him, trying to like intimidate him. But you see him, he's not even scared. He's looking at him, and his eyes start glowing yellow, and he's like, oh, he's getting aggressive. He's like, oh, I'm gonna fuck you up. But then Yolanda steps in, they stop their small dicks or whatever. So they're like, whatever. They stop it, they're leaving, and as they're leaving, Valentina brings her guys in with guns. She's like, don't kill them because she found out about the Sentry stuff. She's like, I thought that we got rid of all that stuff. She's like, well, they all apparently died. I'm guessing this guy survived. So she's like, okay, that's good. We'll get him. So he's trying to help out. And Yolana's like, no, you cannot. You're a civilian. She doesn't know what he's capable of. And then she's also talking to him, and he's like, uh, she's like trying to get to know him a little bit. And then he's like, yeah, I've been a loser my whole life. All I've done was drugs, and I felt like my life was unimportant. And this does lead into the big thing of the movie about his whole emotional internal struggle, because that's a big thing in the comics, though they go into quite a bit of a unique direction in the movie. But he's pretty much like, I'm a loser and I have like mental problems. And sometimes, I go in and out. I have good moments, but I also have very negative moments. And he doesn't say what's happening. And he says, I feel like a void in me, which is leading into the whole void thing. And then she's like, okay. She's like, I get it, but you can't let the void take over you. We've all done bad things. Like, no, but I've done really bad things. So it was kind of alluding to what is going to happen. But she was like trying to consolidate him. Was like, no, it's not that bad. Then they get into the fight with those people and they try to defend against them. They get out of the facility. Their trick is to, as they take out some of the people, they wear the SWAT guys like uniforms to get out of there. But the military guy is like, hey, I need to check your ID. And John is bad at it. And he just gets angry. And then they're like, yep, they're exposed. So they're going to get stopped. And then Bob does something crazy. He breaks out of the back of the car, goes, starts shooting in the air to give them a distraction so they could drive off. And as he does this, they all start shooting at him. And I'm just like, is this going to kill him and then reawaken him as the sentry or activate his powers? No, he was just tanking it. He got shot. He gets up and he's like, you can see his muscles. And I was like surprised because he didn't look like he was that buff. But then when you see underneath his shirt, he has like a six pack. He's kind of shredded. I'm like, damn, okay. He has he has a sleeper build. So he gets up, he's bulletproof, and then he flies in the air chaotically. And then they're shooting missiles at him and stuff, and he's flying around and he loses power and he falls down, crashes, creates a big destruction. It destroys their car and stuff. So now they're like have to walk out, and they're walking the entire day. And Valentina's trying to capture them. She took back Sentry and she captured him. So she's taking him to a facility to try to, get him on her side now. Um, so they're leaving, and then Yolana's dad shows up, and he shows up as a limo. He said, Yolana, watch out. They are going to incinerate you guys into the fire stuff, like, because he heard what she was saying. He was her limo driver for Valentina, and he heard her plan. He's like, watch out, they're going to kill you and stuff. And she's like, oh my god, this is my dad. I don't want to talk about it. And then they're all like, who the hell is that? And they're just like all like confused, and she's embarrassed. I love it because he was being embarrassing. You're like, Johanna, I will save you. And then I was like, dude, you're way too late. It's been like 2 days since they've been out. Like, what are you? Whatever. So they meet up with him, and she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I came here to save you and stuff, obviously. And then she's like, well, we don't need being saved. I'm done and stuff. And he's like, come on. He's like, we are all team. We should be team. You have superpower, guys. Let's work together. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that shit. I'm leaving. So he's like, what the? And then they drive off and they're leaving. So Bob is captured and they're leaving. But as they're leaving, they get tracked down. And now the other guys are attacking them. This is what we saw in the trailer. As they're getting shot at, they're like, oh shit. And, Yolana's dad is just like excited about the whole team up stuff while they're getting shot at. And then as they're getting attacked, Yolanda gets out, shoots them with a pistol, but the car explodes. And she's like, what the hell's happening? She's like, this is not my gun doing it. So then she finds out it was Bucky. Bucky was trying to attack it and track them down. So then he, the Red Russian, he's fucking straight up fanboying out about the whole thing. And he's going crazy. Yes, it's Bucky Barnes. I love this guy. He's a real hero. So he just can't wait for him to come up. But then he attacks them. And then the car flips over, which we also saw in the trailer, and takes them. He basically cuffs them and puts a metal bar around them. And he's like, puts them in this one area, and they're like, why are you doing this? Like, we're just trying to get out of here. We're done with her. We're going to go after her anyway. He's like, no. I'm going to use you guys because you guys are still criminals. I'm going to use you guys as evidence against her to get her impeached. Because there's a bunch of things she did wrong and you guys are proper evidence, and that's why she was trying to get rid of them, right? So he said, I'm going to use you guys. And they're like, no, you can't do this. He's like, trust me, we have a serious problem right now. They got Bob and he has powers. He's like, who the hell is Bob? And he's like, Bob? He's a guy who just got killed in the background there. And then they took, but apparently he could fly and he has powers. So they tuck him. He's like, we need to find out what they're doing with Bob. He was a part, apparently a part of some project that they did, obviously. And then he's like, I'm not hearing it. And then he heard a call from one of his friends, that the guy that was trying to get her impeached. And he mentions that there's some stuff happening and shit. And then she's doing all this stuff. And then he's like, oh, he hears something about Bob and the Century Project because no, the other girl calls him, not his friend. The girl calls him that was working under, Valentina, and she is kind of betraying her. So she did betray her. So it's like, okay, she betrayed her because she did seem to have more of a guilty conscience. Because when Valentina was talking to Century, she's like, oh no, you're great. She's lying to him. Also, he has this power where if he touches somebody, he can see their memory. So he touched both John and Yolanda, and he saw into their memories in the past. We find out that John, he does have a family, but he was kind of being a dick. He was supposed to be watching his child, and his wife's like, "Can you watch him?" He's like, I am watching them. He's giving attitude. He's just being an asshole listening to her movie, and he's on his phone the entire time. And she's like, "You're not watching." He's like, "Oh, if you want me to watch him, why don't you watch him, huh?" Clearly, that he's like giving her shit, and I was like, "Damn, he's kind of being a dick." So he leaves, and that was his stuff. And Yolanda, her stuff was also important. It was basically to do the thing in the red room. She had to betray her friend, so she had a friend calling her down to force. She was hiding behind a tree. She's like, "Where are you?" He's like, "Let's just hang out and stuff." And then she turned around and she's like, "I'm sorry," because the girl I think was also, I didn't watch the Black Widow movie, so I don't know fully the context, but I'm pretty sure she was also in the program because they had a bunch of other girls, and she was probably trying to escape or do some shit against the agency. And instead of working with her, she betrayed her friend and snitched on her. And then they brought out some guy who shot her in the head and killed her. So she had a problem with this. And this happened because the incinerator area, when it blew up, it's launched them. So they flew uh when that happened, and she was knocked unconscious. And apparently somehow Bob's hand got around her fingers and she was holding his hand. Also, I think they were kind of hinting at them both, liking each other. At least she like kind of like was interested in him and trying to understand him and a little bit intrigued. But him, he was kind of like completely crushing on her. So I don't know if they're leading it to that, whatever. But and I also thought she could use that kind of, as leverage to get him to change because we do know he's gonna use the void. In this part in this movie, he's gonna change. But she basically after that, right? Going back to that, Bucky was like, "Yeah, you know what? We're gonna go." He wants to, he finds out about Bob. He's like, "Okay, I gotta let you guys go. We're gonna work together to stop them." So they go and to find Valentina because her assistant betrayed her. Also, the whole thing with the assistant thing, right? She betrayed her because when she heard her talk to Sentry, she knows that Sentry is a little bit dangerous. He's not mentally stable. She saw all of his files and his records of his mental instability, his drug addiction. And then he explained that how he went to Malaysia to get high, and then he got into the program, they put him in, then they did a ton of experiments on him, and they were kind of rough on him. And then they were trying to get rid of him. And then she's like, "Oh, you are very important. You have an importance," because the reason why he's on a lot of drugs is he feels like he has no importance in life. So he takes drugs to alleviate the pain. And she said, "No, you mean something. You're important." And then she's trying to hype him up and gaslight him to join her side as her weapon as the sentry, right? And he's hearing this, and she's like getting through him, and then he touches her hand, and then she sees her past of her dad getting killed trying to protect her. Um, and she's like a little worried about him. She still wants to use him, but she's worried about him. And now she's like, she's good. Like, if he goes off, I'm gonna end him. So she leaves. She's talking to her assistant. She's like, he's dangerous. Why are we keeping him? He's a little too much of a threat. She's like, he's important. We need him. But I do agree, he's a threat. We need a contingency plan to take him out. And then the other girl's like, we had one, but we got rid of it when all this stuff's like, well, remake one. So they're gonna have like this dead man trigger to press and kill him if he ever acts up. So that was her like safety measure against him. So they get him, they work under him. And then the rest of the Thunderbolts are going to attack, Valentina. They're coming after her because of the shit she's doing. As they come after her, she basically, she has her guys coming in, like the military guys, and they beat the crap out of them all. And then she's on the intercom saying, you didn't have to break through that because she's working in the Adventurous Tower. She's like, you didn't have to break through that. I just remodeled this place. What the hell? You guys could just come in. Just come in. So they're like, okay, why is she letting us come in? She comes in, she reveals the sentry, he dyes his hair blonde. They make a comment about it. He's like, why is her hair blonde? It's kind of a little joke, and he does get a little offended about that. And then he comes in with a suit. Personally, the suit, I would say that it is kind of close to the comics version, but I also don't like this version. It seemed a little weird because it had the weird patterns and designs. I didn't like that. I felt like they could have kept it a little bit more like the comics, but as a whole, I think it was pretty accurate if you want to go with that. Right? He comes in with the blonde hair, he's showing off, and now he's saying that he's working for Valentina, and she gave him a purpose and this and that, and he's siding with her. And then the rest of them are like, what are you doing siding with her? She's evil, she's a bitch, why are you working with her? And then she gave me a purpose and stuff like that. And now he's like, they're trying to attack her, and he's like, I can't let you hit her. He has this like weird aura thing that he can protect like from bullets and knives and stuff, so no matter what they do, they can't harm him. And he's like, I'm not gonna let you hurt her. But he also doesn't want to hurt them because, he has a somewhat good relationship with them, except for, John. But he doesn't hate him that much, right? He's like, I care for these people and I don't want to harm them, but I also do want to defend you. And I'm just like, why is he defending her? Yeah, she said some nice words, but who gives a fuck? Like, it makes no sense. And this is one of the biggest gripes I had with the movie is him just joining with Valentina. Valentina, he barely knows this bitch. He doesn't know anything really about her, and he just trusts her. She put him in this program, which he was clearly put into dangerous means. Yes, it gave him powers, but it tortured him, and she didn't care. He was thrown in the vault area, which was going to be burned, so he should have known that she was trying to kill him. And the rest were talking about how she was trying to get rid of evidence, and there were evidence. So technically, he should have known that he was going to be considered evidence too. She does not give a fuck about you. So there is no reason for him to believe this bitch cares about him, even if she's putting the whole thing in his head about, oh, you have an importance and, you have a purpose and, he wants a purpose and that she's using that as leverage to manipulate him. It's still pretty stupid because he knows that she's fucking lying and she's a bitch. And these people, even though they're not perfect, they do care about you. Yolanda was protecting you when she thought you didn't have power. She was just trying to save you, even when you didn't want to be saved, saying, oh, I'll just stay here in the facility. She's like, no, I need you to get out of here. I want to help you out. So you have these people who care about you. Obviously, this girl that you have a kind of a crush on. And then you have this bitch who you don't know. And then you already know that, at least from the little bit you know about her, that she was trying to get rid of her evidence. She does a lot of shady shit. She tried to get you killed. And then she got her people to shoot you. Like, I don't get your logic, dude. Why the fuck would you side with her? So I thought that was retarded. That was a stupid thing. And when people say, this movie's really great, I'm just like, are you fucking thinking logically? This is not me trying to hate on Marvel. This is me being realistic. This is a fucking dumbass story plot when the guy that's supposed to be challenging you guys, it makes no sense why he's fucking challenging you because it's stupid. He's literally attacking you guys when you helped him out to help out this bitch he doesn't know that literally was trying to get rid of all the guys and didn't care for him. He's being fucking stupid, so I don't get that. And they're trying to reason with him. He's not listening, so now they're fighting him and they're doing stupid shit, trying to stab him with a knife. I'm like, really? You saw him taking bullets. He's throwing you against the wall. He's said to be stronger than all the Avengers combined. And you think bullets and a knife is going to work on him? I know you guys have limited amount of options, but come on, don't be stupid. He even bend, the fake Captain America's shield, and he's like, what the fuck? He's fucking them all up, and they run away. And then Yolanda's like, fuck this, I'm leaving. And then Red Rush was like, no, don't leave. And she's like, dude, you have no room to talk. You haven't talked to me in a long time. You had all these years not to talk to me. You didn't. You're a terrible father. And then he's like, but, I just felt disappointed and I felt disappointed in myself and I couldn't see you and I was embarrassed. So you should have been there. Like, I agree. He was being a bitch. So she was crying. She was trying to leave. But as this is happening, Century is there now with Valentina and she's like, yeah, she did that to embarrass them. That was the whole point, to get them there, to whoop their ass, embarrass them, and have them leave. So she accomplished her mission at least. But even though she accomplished her like goal and her mission of embarrassing them, it's kind of backfiring afterwards because now she's trying to tell him, oh, kill them. He's like, why should I? They're no threat to me. I've obviously beat them and there's no need to go and kill them. And she's like, you're supposed to do what I tell you. You're not supposed to question it. And he's like, why should I? I'm a god. You told me I'm a god. You said I'm stronger than all the Avengers combined, so why should I listen to you? Also, before this, he was complaining about the blonde hair. He's like, do you think it really looks stupid? He wouldn't let that shit go. He really got offended that they thought the blonde hair was kind of dumb. Did really? You guys think it's bad? But then he was going crazy, and I was like, this is where we see a little bit more of his unstable side. And they didn't mention the fact he has a god complex. So now he's challenging her, and I'm like, this bitch doesn't know what she's doing. So he grabs her, he's choking her. I'm like, she's a fucked up. The void is going to be coming out soon. But her assistant comes, if she has like the dead man trigger, he gets her, knocks her down, the trigger falls down. He's like, "Oh, so you're trying to kill me?" He realizes now. And I'm just like, "You're a fucking idiot. You forgot the whole incineration shit." And then her assistant apparently joins her side again. She went from betraying her to being her side, which it's weird with the flip flop. She comes and presses the switch and it apparently kills him. And then she leaves. She's like, "Oh, so you did come back to join me and you realizing you're on the right side." She's like, "Yeah, yeah, I understand." I was like, "That's stupid." She went from betraying her to back to her side, even though she did call her out, whatever. So she leaves, he dies, and then his body turns black. And as it turns black, that's the void coming out. Now the void is just coming out there and wiping things out. And he's turning people into skin marks and stuff on the road and shit. And I was like, did he kill them or is he just, is he killing them or is he just like, sending them to another dimension, which he was sending them to another dimension. But he's going out and he's now being a big threat. And the rest of the team, as they were fighting, he comes out and they seem like, oh shit, that's him. He's destroying stuff. They're saving people. The Red Russian actually saves the little girl like a hero. And then he shows up, he does his power, and then he spotters the little girl. I'm like, oh damn, that's kind of crazy if he did kill her. And then Yolanda sees this black shadow coming out, and he's basically wiping everything out in the entire city. And instead of running away from it, she walks up and lets it hit her. And then he's crying, Red Russian. He's like, my daughter. And then they're all trying to go. It's like, what is happening? She must have been doing this for a reason. We find out that this dimension that he sends them in is the same thing when he touches them, he sees through their memories. So he's putting them in their worst memories because all he has is bad memories. So she's trying to find him. We're going through all of her stuff, the beatings that she had to go through, and then seeing all of the other girls going through being punished and tortured, and she didn't like that. And then all this other stuff. Also, they made a joke about this whole baseball team, and that's where they got the Thunderbolts from because her kids like baseball team was called the Thunderbolts or something like that. And they had a whole joke about which company owned it, a tire shop company or electric company, whatever. But that's how you get the Thunderbolts. But she's in there, she's going through all of her hard shit, and she sees him, she's trying to find Bob, and then she finds him. There's also stuff about her alcoholism, which there's some stuff about her mental trauma, and then she's trying to find him and trying to connect with his mental trauma. He's in a room, and then she hears what's happening. Apparently, what happened to him was his dad was abusive. He was beating up his mom, and then he was beating him up. And whenever he tried to defend his mom's like, "Stop it! You're just making things worse." And she's like, "You're useless. You can't ever do anything right. You're always making things worse." So she was giving him shit for it, and that's why he always felt like he was kind of like worthless. So he was getting beaten by his dad, and then he was getting treated like he was worthless shit, even though he was trying to help out his mom. So he always felt down on himself. He's like, "Oh, this is the best room I could be in because I had a lot of bad stuff." And then she's trying to help him out. Then the rest of the Thunderbolts get in there. They're all trying to help him out. And this is where the main thing is. They can't beat him, so they can try to help him out with his mental trauma and try to get him over the void thing. So they're getting him through this room, and he's trying to attack him the other side of himself. They're like, "We need to get you out of here. We need to go to the worst memory room to save you." Then they go down. There's like the other version of himself, his dad, coming up. He's like, "Oh, you think you're a big man now?" And then John just punches him in the face, knocks him out. And then they run off. Also I forgot to mention his wife left him and his kid left him because of being a dick. And he's like, yeah. Yolanda was like, "Damn, you just say that." And he's like, "Yeah, I was doing bad there." But we go through their traumas and stuff, and then we go through his, and then we go through him being on meth as a chicken, wearing a chicken suit, beating the crap out of them, which I was like, wait, so he's allowed to do meth, but Deadpool wasn't allowed to do cocaine. Okay, we get it, Marvel. But after that, they leave there, and then they go to the worst room, which was the room where he was getting experimented on. Apparently, the guys were treating him like shit, so he, like, his power activated, and he turned them into, like, the skin marks and shit. And then they're talking to him, and then the Dark Sentry comes up, he's like, "You really think you're gonna be something?" It's his other side who always puts him down and the negative emotions of himself, shitting on him, and then he's fighting them all and holding them back, and then he's like, "Come on, fight me then." So then he starts fighting him, and Bob starts beating him up. He starts being the dark side, but every time he beats him up, it starts to encompass him more and take over his body and then turn him evil. And then you notice it, and they try to stop him to break out. They all start holding him and hugging him, trying to say, "We're here for you. We got you," and basically giving him emotional and mental support that he's never had to stop him from like losing his shit. So this is helping him. He ends up, breaking out of it. As he does, he loses his memory. They're going to try to kill Valentina, but as they pull up, she has this press there, and she's like, "The new Avengers." So that was the whole thing with them being the new Avengers and shit like that. So that was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, they got through his mental turmoil, and that was the only way they could beat him. Personally, I felt like he's that powerful and that's the only way they can beat him, which is not as entertaining as seeing the whole fights. I do get the emotional aspect. I like that, but I felt like they could still have fights. I felt like the Sentry, they could have just done him later. They didn't need to put him in the Thunderbolts. They should have had another enemy that was powerful, but not too powerful, which would have made sense. But he was too OP, and I felt it was kind of weird to put him in this movie as an introduction, right? But they become the new Avengers, and they're like, well, you work for us now. And then they had two, end credit scenes. They had the post end credit and then the end credit. The post end credit was just a joke with the Red Russian in a superstore being weird, saying, "Oh, look, you should buy this cereal with superheroes on it, the Wheaties box." And then the lady's like, "Well, oh, okay." And she's like, "This guy's a weirdo." She puts it away. He's like, "Well," and he's like, "I'm on it. I'm a superhero." And she's like, "I don't know, fuck." And then the final one was them talking about how they are gonna get sued by uh Captain America because he's being a dick. He's like, no, 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 you guys are not allowed to use the Avengers stuff. So there's a whole legal dispute because they got the Avengers, but then he's creating an Avengers team. So we don't know who the fuck is the Avengers. And then there's a space anomaly, and apparently that space anomaly is the Fantastic Four come for the dimension because they're from a separate universe. I don't care about that. Like I said, I don't give a shit about the Fantastic Four stuff. It sounds very corny. It sounds very liberal. It sounds very, woke and bullshit. They're gonna get into some really gay ass, gender politics bullshit, which I never like. Anytime that you have some gay shit like that, I'm just like, I'm done. I check out. But yeah, that's what they're leading into. So now the movie, the reason why I was disappointed for a lot of reasons was one, Sentry, I felt like was not necessary in this. I felt like he was too powerful. Two, they spent most of the movie just be inside his mind instead of a fight. They had a brief little fight with him. He whooped their ass easy. Obviously, that was also kind of dumb. And then they get into his mindscape and they're just trying to get him out of it. And then also him joining Valentina was stupid. It made no sense. These people you worked with, even though you have a problem with John, the rest you didn't have too much of a problem with, and you don't know Bucky or a Red Russian. So why are you fighting them, especially for this bitch who clearly is shady? You're just an idiot. And then you turn on her like literally right after anyway. It was just so dumb to have him so much on her side. Like, why? Um, and then, like I said, I don't feel like the Sentry was necessary in this movie anyway, because they wasted most of the time instead of them fighting doing that. And I do like the emotional stuff. I like seeing his backstory, but they all have it. So it's like, it doesn't mean as much. And it was just kind of dumb. Also, it's stupid in this one. I liked it in the comics, like I said, where he was a junkie trying to get a fix. He thought the super soldier serum was a drugs and he snuck in and got it. Whereas in this one, he was selected for the program. And I was just thinking, I was like, how fucking stupid are they in this program? You just pick anybody from the street. You're not doing anything to, verify what type of person they are. You obviously did a mental health check and he's mentally unstable. Why would you give somebody so mentally unfucking stable so much power? It's fucking stupid. So you have a bunch of candidates that you're just randomly picking junkies, people with mental problems and drug addiction. That is the fucking worst thing. They could have done more of a extreme vetting process where they see, hey, you can't have any mental health problems or any severe ones at least. You can't have any violent problems. Because they need to have something that they can control. If somebody's mentally unstable, it's hard to control them. If somebody's a junkie, there's problems there. If somebody's more violent, they're more likely to not listen to somebody and get violent if they're told what to do, right? So why are you guys so fucking stupid? In the original comics, he was not meant to take it. He took it himself and snuck it and took it. Whereas in this one, they themselves just picked up any random idiot and they got this guy and clearly it went wrong. So it's like they found for a big ass, government agency, they're pretty fucking stupid. That's a dumbass thing. If it was me, I'm like, hell no, I'm not taking this guy in. No offense to him. I think he's cool or whatever, but he has problems. I'm not taking him in. I would have took somebody who had more credibility that I felt like would have been, it would have made sense. But they took in somebody who's unstable, and this is the results you get, you fucking idiots. And then the Void thing in the comics, in the Void, he's a little bit different. He's not just a complete mental aspect. He's a completely powerful entity and stuff like that. Also, his design looks different in that one. He has like a red suit with black hair, or sometimes he has like different designs, but he's mostly like red and stuff. Whereas this one, they just made it completely black. I didn't like that design. I felt like that was kind of lazy. So I didn't like that. And I just felt like they spent a lot of time in his head, and I felt like there's a lot of stuff that there wasn't as entertaining. And most of the time is spent in that facility, them trying to escape. We did not need to see that all. We did not need to see them trying to break out of there and this and that. I get it. Sometimes you need to explain because people are like, well, how did they get out of there? but we don't need to see that much, right? It could have been just really quick. So they wasted most of the time in the movie in there. Then they wasted most of the movie just inside his mind, uh, and the mind palace trying to get out of there and trying to get him out of there. That was it. And then when he reverted, he can't use his powers anyway anymore. I know in the comics they erase the memory and stuff a lot of times to get rid of the void, but it is kind of pointless to bring him in there and then take him out, whatever. But they spend most of the time in two areas: the facility where they're trying to get out, and then literally in his mind and this dimension area where they're trying to escape. That's not fun. I'm sorry. That's kind of boring. We really only had like a few fights and there weren't really that much to it. And the fight against him was cool, but it was like only a few minutes long. And it was obviously one sided. We knew they were not going to have any chance against him. It was pretty stupid, you know? So it was just like, whatever. Um, and I felt like I said before, early on in this video, I said there was a better way they could have handled him. Instead of having him in this movie, they could have had him in Avengers Doomsday. What they could have done is Robert Downey Jr. as Doom could have came from another dimension as an evil version of Tony Stark who became Doom, and he was a villain, and he, instead of wanting to just help people out, he wanted to conquer the dimensions because he felt he was so much smarter and superior to everybody else that the only way to save not only his world, but his universe, but all the timelines, because there's a lot of problems happening with alien invasions. It was for him to, take over and then interject himself and save everybody, right? But he was doing it in extreme measurements, and he doesn't care what anybody says about it. He doesn't have any right? Also, before that, I want to say that the whole Sentry thing, actually, I forgot. I'll remember it again, and I'll remind or tell you guys about the whole Sentry stuff that I had a problem with that. But he could have been like, I'm trying to conquer these worlds, but even though with my intelligence and my advanced technology, I can't conquer everything. There's a lot of threats. Oh yeah, the thing I remember, sorry, was the fact that why did they need somebody this powerful and this unstable? Why was Valentina doing this? Because I know they have some threats in the universe, but most of the big threats are gone. Like these big alien invasions and stuff like that is not that serious of a threat to create something this potentially dangerous, because she created the biggest threat and danger to the Earth herself. She created that on Earth. The whole point of the Century Project was to be defending against some big threats that they can't handle, like outside in outer space and aliens. But there hasn't been that big of a threat. After Endgame, there isn't any real serious alien threat, and you still have some quite powerful, superpowered beings. So why are you so desperate to do this project and this program to literally create something this dangerous? And it did go wrong. Why are you so adamant about creating this program and doing all this that could get you in trouble, that could create something so dangerous simply to fight against threats that are no longer that big of a threat? Because at this point, I don't think Marvel has any serious threats. They're trying to build up to it with, Avengers Doomsday, but that's way later. So they wouldn't know that at this point, especially when they first started the program. So it's kind of stupid, but whatever. Going back to my whole idea of the way they could have done better. So he's trying to conquer those places. He does have advanced technology. He's smart, but he realizes that he's still lacking in terms of power, and they have some powerful, beings. And this universe specifically not only beat Thanos, who throughout all these other, possibilities and realities, most of them lost, but they beat him definitively. They had the best heroes and stuff like that. He realizes that they're too dangerous, especially with all these other teams and stuff, that he needs something to help him to beat them. So the first Doomsday movie, because I know they're going to have a second one, he could have created Sentry himself. That would have made more sense. He could have either picked Bob from this universe or another universe, took him and basically experimented on him, making the Sentry Project. Because one, he's smart enough to make the Sentry, do the Sentry Project. And then two, it would give him more firepower and it would make sense, right? So it would have made sense of he created the Sentry as a weapon to conquer these universes, and by giving him this power with the super soldier serum, which it could kill somebody, he could have tried it on himself, but he didn't know if it would kill him, so he tried it on a test subject. He got Bob, and then Bob proved that it works. So as he does this, he creates Sentry and he becomes his weapon. But Sentry starts to turn on him, saying, "Why should I work for you? I'm better than you. I'm stronger than you." And then had him as, Sentry as the first half of the weapon being used by Doom, Doctor Doom. And Doctor Doom still being the main villain, but he turns on him and works with the heroes But as he works, he starts to turn into the Void, and now they have a big problem. And Doomsday has to work with the Avengers to help them defeat it. And he does this by taking the Super Soldier Serum himself, beating them, or using some technology to siphon out the energy, beating Bob, and getting supposedly rid of his powers. Now Bob is done for, and Doomsday's back to being the big threat, and he had Bob doing all this hard work. So now he does his plan, and then we could have set up the second movie. So I feel like they could have saved up Sentry as Doctor Doom's plan. They could have had Doctor Doom creating Sentry and using him as a weapon, and then having him turn and going evil and then rogue and being a big threat, and then him having to take him down one way or another, and then him initiating his final plan in the next movie to completely get rid of them. I think that could have been better than having him in this movie, but it's too late. So that's how it's gonna go. I wonder how they're gonna use him in Doomsday. Obviously, he's gonna have some importance. Maybe he might be the one to beat him in the second movie, because I know the first one he's gonna win, the second one he's gonna lose. So I want to see what direction they're gonna go in there. Yeah, this movie as a whole, for me personally, it was not awful, but it was disappointing. I felt like they could have done better. I felt like a lot of decisions they made I didn't really like. And the whole switch up with Sentry was the biggest problem I had with it. I felt like it was kind of dumb. Though I do like Valentina as a villain, because I really hated her in the movie. I want to see her die really badly. And that's how you make a good villain, by making you want to despise these people, want to see them getting killed. So yeah, I thought that was great. But as a whole, I thought it was okay. It was kind of disappointing, a little bit lackluster. It's not saving Marvel, it's not great, but it's also not as bad as a lot of people say it is. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.